He was just a mangy dog, ignored, kicked, and chased away by everyone at the gas station. But when a little girl vanished in broad daylight, that same dog did something no human could. And what the CCTV cameras captured next left the town in absolute shock. On the edge of a quiet highway, tucked between two aging fuel pumps and an abandoned lot, there lived a dog no one cared to name. He was skinny, dirty, and limped on one leg. Customers swerved around him. Workers tossed scraps or stones, whichever they felt like. But what they didn't know was that this stray had been watching, waiting. And on one fateful afternoon, when everything fell apart, he would become the only hope left. The gas station stood like a relic from the past. Cracked concrete, a flickering neon sign that hadn't worked in years, and a rusted ice machine that growled like a dying engine. Most travelers didn't stop here unless they had to. The locals called it Dead Pump, and among its few loyal inhabitants was the dog. No one remembered when he first appeared. Some said he'd been dumped. Others believed he wandered in from the woods. Either way, the dog, lean with matted fur and wary amber eyes, made the gas station his home. They called him Trash. "Get out of the way, Trash!" a delivery man once yelled, kicking in his direction as the dog scampered behind a crate. Teenagers laughed. The dog would wag his tail sometimes, hopeful, but his hope was rarely returned. Yet every day he was there. Rain, shine, or snow, he lay beneath the broken vending machine or near the old tires. He never barked, never begged, but he watched, especially the children. One summer day, around 3:40 p.m., a white SUV pulled into the gas station. Out came a woman and a little girl, maybe 5 years old. She had curly brown hair and wore pink sandals that lit up when she walked. The dog perked up. He didn't approach, just sat upright, tail brushing the dust as he watched the girl with silent intensity. The mother was inside, arguing with the cashier about a card error. The girl wandered, first near the pumps, then toward the fence that bordered the woods. No one noticed, except the dog. He stood, muscles tense. Then she disappeared behind the station. Inside, the mother finally stormed out, receipt in hand. "Lucy!" Silence. She ran around the car. "Lucy!" She screamed so loud that the station manager came running. And from behind the vending machine came the dog, barking frantically. At first, they waved him off, thought he was just being his usual nuisance self. But the dog wouldn't stop. He ran a few feet, stopped, barked, looked back. Then he sprinted toward the fence. The mother, sobbing and frantic, finally followed. Behind the gas station was a narrow path, blocked by old tires and discarded metal sheets. The dog weaved through them like he'd done it 100 times. And then, a scream, high-pitched, muffled. The mother froze. "Lucy!" The barking intensified. The dog was already clawing at a bush near the trail's edge. The mother pushed past the thorns, and there she was, Lucy, in the arms of a stranger, a man, wearing a hood halfway into the woods. He looked up, startled. Lucy cried, "Mommy!" The man dropped her, ran. The dog chased him like lightning, no hesitation, no fear. He bit into the man's calf, snarling, tearing at fabric and flesh. The man kicked, stumbled, and vanished into the trees. The mother scooped Lucy into her arms, both of them shaking. Police were called. They found blood on the dog's mouth and fur, a few strands of a torn hoodie. Lucy's fingerprints were on the man's sleeve. The gas station's ancient security cameras had captured enough to support the mother's statement. The man was caught 2 days later in a nearby town, limping, hiding in an old shed. He had a record. And the dog? The town changed overnight. He wasn't trash anymore. People brought him food, blankets, collar. The gas station owner built him a wooden shelter beside the vending machine and painted a name on it. Guardian. But something still lingered, because the dog had known something long before anyone else did. And his story wasn't over yet. The gas station lights flickered against the early morning haze as the town stirred slowly to life. A new day had begun, but for Sarah, the image of the dirty stray dog refusing to leave the gas station entrance was etched in her mind. The haunting way it had howled the night before stayed with her. Still thinking about the dog's mysterious behavior, Sarah stopped by the gas station again. She didn't see the dog immediately, but the old man who sold cigarettes and candy behind the register met her eyes. "You're looking for that mutt?" he asked, half curious, half annoyed. "Slept under the ice machine all night. Growled at anyone who came too close." Sarah nodded, walking slowly toward the ice machine. The dog was gone. Only tufts of white fur clung to the corner of the rusty metal. She knelt down, inspecting the area. That's when she noticed something odd. Claw marks in the dirt leading toward the road. And something else. Small footprints beside them. Why would a stray dog be traveling with a child? She whispered to herself, heart beginning to race. Unable to shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong, Sarah drove her old pickup truck in the direction of the tracks. She turned off the main road and found herself following a narrow, wooded path, a maintenance road the city had long forgotten. Her tires crunched over fallen leaves, and the deeper she went, the more her chest tightened. Half an hour later, Sarah spotted the dog again. It stood in the middle of the path, blocking her way. Its fur was still dirty, its ribs visible under its thin coat. But its eyes, they stared right into her soul. As she stepped out of the car, the dog turned and ran into the woods. She followed. The forest was still. No birds chirped. No wind blew. The only sound was the crunch of her boots and the low, soft whimpering ahead. The dog led her to a fallen tree, its trunk hollowed and damp. Beneath it, barely visible, was a tiny bundle of blankets. Sarah rushed forward and pulled them aside. A child. A boy no older than 6. Pale. Eyes closed. Breathing shallow. Sarah's heart thudded in her ears. She scooped the boy into her arms, panic setting in. "What happened to you?" she whispered, tears stinging her eyes. "Why are you out here alone?" The dog whimpered and pawed at the blanket, revealing a small torn notebook. Inside was a child's handwriting. "My name is Joey. I was taken. The dog saved me. He kept me warm. He didn't let the bad man come back." Sarah's breath caught. Taken? Who? She scanned the woods, her skin crawling. It wasn't just about a lost child anymore. Something darker had happened. Back at the town hospital, doctors rushed Joey inside while Sarah waited, her hands still shaking. A nurse approached her. "You found him in the woods?" the nurse asked. Sarah nodded. "The dog. He led me to him." The nurse looked puzzled. "You mean that dog?" She pointed out the window. There he was, sitting outside the hospital entrance. Silent, still, waiting. As Sarah approached him, she knelt down. "You saved him, didn't you?" she whispered. The dog simply looked at her, then licked her hand. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. The sheriff had come to the hospital and taken Joey's notebook as evidence. The boy was still unconscious but stable. Sarah gave a full statement mentioning everything: the dog, the footprints, the hollow log. "You're saying the dog protected the boy for nearly 2 days?" the sheriff asked, skepticism heavy in his voice. "Yes, and there's more." She hesitated. "The boy wrote that someone took him." The sheriff's brow furrowed. "We haven't had any missing reports matching his description. No parents, no alerts." "That doesn't make sense," Sarah replied. "There must be something." They didn't find anything. No missing child reports. No abandoned cars nearby. The boy seemed to appear out of nowhere. And the dog? Gone. The next day, Sarah went back to the gas station, hoping to find answers. That's when she noticed something strange on the old community bulletin board near the store entrance. Half-torn flyers, some weather-worn and faded. One stood out. A missing child poster from 2 years ago. The name? Joey. She tore it from the board and drove straight to the sheriff. He looked at it, then back at her. "This flyer is over a year old. That case went cold. The family moved. No leads. We thought he'd drowned in the river." Sarah stared at him, then at the flyer. "But the boy I found, he's Joey. And that dog. Somehow, it kept him alive all this time." The sheriff leaned back in his chair, looking shaken. "If that's true, we have to find out where that dog came from, and who the bad man was." The rain had been falling for hours. Each droplet tapped like a tiny metronome against the concrete outside the gas station, where the stray dog now sat drenched, but still unmoving. Jake's shift had ended, but he hadn't gone home. Something about the dog, its persistence, the desperation in its bark, the unspoken plea in its eyes, refused to let go of his conscience. He dried the animal with a towel and tried to feed it again, but it had only sniffed the food and returned to the door, barking and glancing back at him with urgency. It wasn't hungry. It wanted help. Jake took a deep breath, threw on a rain jacket, and followed. The dog led him behind the gas station, past a chain-link fence, and through a patch of overgrown grass that led into a thin strip of woods. Jake knew the area was mostly abandoned. An old water treatment facility had once stood nearby, now fenced off and crumbling. As he trailed the dog, the flashlight beam caught something on the ground, small, bright, and plastic. He crouched to pick it up. A pink pacifier. His heart skipped. The dog was already 20 feet ahead, barking wildly now, tail stiff, ears alert. Jake rushed to catch up. The woods opened into a shallow ravine, where a battered shopping cart lay overturned, and beside it, a car seat, muddy and soaked. Empty. Jake looked around, the rain masking most sound. Then he heard it, muffled sobbing. He froze. Jake's heart leapt as he raced toward the child. A little girl, maybe 2 years old, huddled in fear. Her clothes were torn, her skin smeared with dirt. But she was alive, and the dog hadn't left her side. Jake called 911 immediately, cradling the toddler in his jacket. When paramedics arrived, they were stunned. No one even knew a child was missing. The officers questioned Jake, but he could only point to the stray dog, who stood silently under the flickering beam of a street lamp, its body dripping wet, but its gaze calm and satisfied. The dog had saved her, but something didn't add up. Why was she here? Who left her? And how did the dog know? That night, Jake stayed awake replaying it all. Then he remembered something. The same dog had been showing up at the gas station weeks ago. But no one had paid attention. Jake returned to the station the next morning and checked the outdoor security footage. He combed through weeks of video until one scene made him freeze. The dog, weeks earlier, chasing a battered van with missing plates that had stopped briefly near the woods behind the station. And in the back window of that van, a toddler's face. Jake took the footage to the police. Within hours, an investigation opened. Missing child reports were scanned, and soon a match was made. The toddler had been reported missing over a month ago, presumed kidnapped during a gas station stop on the interstate. The dog must have followed the van from wherever it had been, miles, maybe more, and had been trying to get help ever since. The town was in disbelief. The media caught wind, and reporters swarmed the gas station within days. Headlines read, "Stray dog saves missing toddler, gas station hero." But for Jake, it wasn't about the attention. It was about the moment the little girl reached out and gently hugged the dog around the neck before the paramedics took her away. The bond between them was beyond words. And now Jake faced a decision, one that tugged deeply at his heart. The dog had no tag, no owner, and no one stepping forward to claim it. Jake looked at the animal, curled up outside the station again. This time not barking, not pacing, just waiting for him. And Jake knew exactly what he had to do. Everyone called it a nuisance, just a stray. But that same dirty, unwanted dog just led rescuers to a missing toddler deep in the woods. Now, with reporters circling and the town shaken, one question remains. How did this dog know? And what it reveals next shocks everyone. The town had already started calling the dog a hero. Newspapers were printing headlines, and people who had once ignored or shooed the dog away now left food and blankets near the gas station. But Jake wasn't satisfied with praise. He wanted answers. The way the dog had acted, from barking at specific people to leading Jake through a maze of mud and rain, wasn't random. It was intentional. What had this dog seen? And who had taken the child? Jake had become a minor celebrity overnight. Interview after interview, he repeated what he knew. But behind the polite smiles and sound bites, he was restless. The toddler's name was Emily Carter. Her mother, Rachel, had been driving through the area when she stopped to use the restroom at a nearby diner. In that single moment, Emily vanished from the car. Rachel had searched, screamed, begged, but no one saw a thing. She'd filed a report, but as weeks passed, hope had withered. Until now, she visited the gas station the day after the rescue, holding her daughter close. When Emily saw the dog, her face lit up. She ran to it, squealing with joy. Jake saw it in her eyes. This wasn't the first time the dog had protected her. This dog had stayed with her the whole time. Rachel knelt down beside them, tears in her eyes. "Is he yours?" she asked softly. Jake shook his head. "No, he's nobody's." But that wasn't true. Not anymore. Jake tried to trace the dog's past. He asked local shelters, scanned for a microchip, none found, and even checked old social media posts about strays in the area. Nothing. It was as if the dog had appeared out of nowhere. But something kept bugging him, the van. The blurry footage from weeks ago. Jake had only seen the outside of the van in the video, but he remembered something odd. A logo spray-painted on the back window. He froze when he remembered what it looked like. A circle, with a jagged S-shape through it. Like a snake. He Googled it. Dozens of images came up. It was a known symbol, used by a small but dangerous group involved in child trafficking. Jake reported this immediately. The police launched an investigation into abandoned properties around the area. Then, another twist. 2 days later, officers found that same van. Torched, left in a clearing off the interstate, nearly unrecognizable. Inside were old, singed papers, a broken car seat, and one clear item left on the dashboard, a chewed-up tennis ball. Jake knew immediately it belonged to the dog. Whoever had that van must have tossed it out the night Emily was taken. And the dog? It followed. For miles. The dog had tracked the van, followed it back to the woods near the station, and waited for help. Every bark, every chase, every howl at strangers passing through. It had been a cry for someone to look. The dog had been trying to save her all along. Jake stood in the clearing holding the tennis ball. He whispered, "You saved her life." As the news spread, something beautiful happened. People from around the world sent letters, gifts, and offers to adopt the dog. But Jake already knew the answer. He stood before a crowd during a local event organized in the dog's honor. Hero of the Highway, they called it. Jake lifted the dog's paw and said, "He may not have a name on a tag, but he's got one now." He looked into the dog's eyes. "Meet Chance." The crowd erupted. Tears, applause, smiles everywhere. But Jake also made one more vow that night. He would use Chance's story to raise awareness about animal neglect, stray rescues, and missing children. One dog, once ignored and starving on the edge of a gas station, was now changing lives. Thank you for watching Folded Hands. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this story. If it touched your heart, please consider giving it a thumbs up and sharing it with someone who loves animals as much as you do. Every view, like, and comment helps these powerful stories reach more people and reminds the world that even the smallest act of compassion can make a big difference. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and never ignore a cry for help. Paw Prints, Red Heart.